everyone. Welcome to a Fistful of Dice. I'm out at the park. It's a nice, cold, rainy day here in the Pacific Northwest. And it's my favorite time to come out to the park. It's like me and one other guy out here. Just completely deserted, nice and quiet. I mean, it's not pouring or anything, it's just a drizzle, but I have the whole park to myself. It's pretty cool. So, since I have a nice empty park where no one is going to look at me strangely for filming a video on my phone, I wanted to film a video on a topic that my roommate suggested. My roommate, by the way, his name is Darren. He runs a little website called movieinablender.com. And I think I've plugged his site before on my channel, but I'm going to put it out there again anyway. So definitely go check out if you're into movies at all, or comics or anything like that, movieinablender.com. So he had a topic for me, which was how to handle players turning into things. Players, whether they contract vampirism or lycanthropy or they become undead. How do you as a GM handle that situation? How do you approach that situation? And more specifically, as a player, how do you handle that situation if it were to happen to your character? So as a GM, you know that one of your players, or they're going to be going up against something that has the possibility of affecting their character in a very permanent, very real way. Whether that be, vampirism or lycanthropy or anything like that. Something is going to change their character. Physically, stats-wise, whatever. Their character is going to undergo a change. Now, there's the way of handling it where you don't tell them beforehand, it just happens, and you let whatever happens happen. Now, that's all well and good, and it has a nice element of surprise to it, but the problem is, one of your players gets upset that, my character was just drastically altered in a very fundamental way, and I had no sort of input. And for me, wah, right? That's part of the game. But that type of person exists where they get upset about that kind of stuff. The other way of dealing with it is you warn the players beforehand, or not warn, but ask them, would you guys be okay going up against something that could potentially alter your characters? And most of the time, if they're good players, if they're good people, they're going to say, yeah, no problem, whatever. That sounds good to me, it's part of the game, right? It's the same danger as potentially dying, except I still get to play my character and I have an interesting roleplay opportunity. Or they can say, I don't know if I'm cool with that. And then the other thing is, how do you mechanically handle it? If you get bit by a vampire, or you get bit by a werewolf, or a were-creature of any kind, it doesn't just happen. You don't just, I'm a vampire. The symptoms start to show themselves, and you slowly turn. In most systems and settings and things like that. So, what we were talking about, my roommate and I, was how do you let that character know that they're turning without being like, by the way, you're turning. So we were thinking maybe a knowledge check. The knowledge that corresponds with that creature. So most likely you're going to be looking at knowledge arcana or knowledge engineering. Potentially knowledge religion. Or a heal check. Heal is one of those skills that people tend to overlook, but it's very versatile, very broad. So you could potentially use heal to see what your symptoms mean. I'm very cold. I feel cold, and I'm hungry. And you could roll a heal check, and if you roll high enough, it's you could potentially have a fever, or you just went up against some vampires, you could potentially have, you know, contracted something from them, or something of that nature. So how do you as a GM handle turning mechanics, mechanically and non-mechanically? Do you think your players would be cool with that? Do you think they just roll with it? Or do you think you have to give them some warning? Another option is setting it up beforehand with a player, saying, I'd like for you to maybe, you know, contract vampirism or lycanthropy. And that's a way to get a player on board, totally cool, but it also spoils some of the prize, and you're also sort of railroading it a little bit. Now, the way I thought you could do this without telling the players, without warning them beforehand, but also not upsetting them too much, is you have the very real danger of contracting vampirism or lycanthropy, but you also present an out. You give them a way to stop it before it happens, or to turn it back if it does happen. So, your player is bitten by a vampire. They have a very real chance of becoming a vampire themselves, and they're starting to display symptoms. Now they have to go to the local cleric, find out how to stop it before it happens. And then you've got a whole new quest, a whole new adventure, all new motivations for your characters. Crazy roleplay opportunity, fun to GM. They gotta go find a cure for their buddy's vampirism. That's awesome. That's really cool. I think that would be a really, really interesting way to handle it. Now, from a player standpoint, let's go down this trail. I like this trail. From a player standpoint, honestly, I wouldn't want my GM to tell me. I wouldn't want to know going into a situation that there is a very real possibility of becoming a vampire, becoming a were-rat, whatever. I wouldn't want to know. Because to me, that's where your character can really shine, is when they're faced with this adversity. When they're faced with the danger that they could become an undead creature or become a beast. That, to me, is where you really get to play your character. You really get to find out how your character would react to things. So I welcome that. Just as I welcome the idea that my character could die at any moment. Because to me, that's part of the fun of tabletop gaming, is the danger element. What fun is it if you know your character's not going to die, and you know that your GM will always tell you if your character's going to experience a big change? I mean, it's a weird sort of dichotomy to me, because the same people who like to hog the spotlight, the same players who like to hog the spotlight and have their character be the center of attention all the time, are the same players that most of the time get upset with stuff like this. And I don't understand that, because it's a perfect opportunity for you to take the spotlight, for you to be the center of attention, because you're turning into a vampire or you're turning into a werewolf, and the whole party is trying to stop it. So I don't really get that. Anyway, this has been a very rambly video, but I want to know how you guys handle stuff like that. Do you warn your players beforehand? Do you let it roll? Or do you take one player aside and kind of have them in on the plot? There's several ways to doing it, and I'm interested in hearing more. So let me know what you think, guys, from a GM standpoint and a player standpoint. And let's get a discussion going, huh? Take care. Happy gaming all.